Have you ever noticed how, once you reach a certain age, people start telling you to stay home more or stop going out so much? At first, it sounds a bit ridiculous, doesn't it? After all, we've spent decades working hard, raising families, showing up for others, and now, when we finally have time for ourselves, they say, stay in? But here's the thing. What if there's actually a deeper reason behind that advice? What if the saying, don't go visiting around in old age, isn't about becoming reclusive, but about protecting your peace, your energy, and even your health? You see, old age is not a time to shrink, but it is a time to be more intentional. And that's exactly what this conversation is about. In this video, we're going to talk about why this old piece of wisdom still matters today, and the real reasons why pulling back from certain types of social activity could be one of the healthiest decisions you ever make. Now, don't worry. This isn't about cutting off the people you love or saying goodbye to fun. Far from it. It's about understanding your energy, your boundaries, and how to live with more peace and strength than ever before. So let's get right into it. One of the biggest and most overlooked reasons older adults are encouraged to stay put is simple. Your body doesn't bounce back the way it used to. I'm not just talking about physical energy, though that's part of it. I'm talking about recovery in general. In your younger days, a late night visit, a long drive to see a friend, or a weekend full of errands might leave you a little tired, but you'd shake it off quickly. Now, one unexpected guest, one overly long chat, or one visit out of town can throw your entire rhythm off for days. We often don't realize how delicate our internal systems become with age until something small, like a bad night's sleep or a late dinner, throws everything off balance. And social visits, especially unplanned ones, can bring a lot of that disruption. Whether it's eating at odd hours, getting home late, or being too polite to say no to another cup of coffee at 9 p.m., these things take a bigger toll than they used to. Protecting your time and space isn't rude, it's smart. And honestly, it's necessary if you want to keep feeling your best. Another reason people slow down on visits after a certain age is more emotional than physical. It's the quiet realization that not every visit adds to your life. This one might sting a little, but it's the truth. You may find that some social circles you once enjoyed now leave you feeling drained or unfulfilled. That's not a sign that something's wrong with you. In fact, it might be a sign you've grown. In earlier years, we often spend time in situations just to be polite, to maintain appearances, or simply because that's what everyone expects. But with age comes clarity. You start to notice which people lift your spirit, and which ones just talk about their own problems, complain endlessly, or dismiss your thoughts. You also notice how loud the world can be, and how much peace you feel when you don't have to perform or entertain anyone. Here's a thought. What if you gave yourself permission to be more selective? To say, I love you, but I need rest today. Or even, I'd rather spend time in my garden than listen to gossip over tea. These are boundaries, not walls. And believe me, boundaries don't push people away. They teach the right people how to come closer in healthier ways. Now, I want to talk about another reason that doesn't get discussed enough: the power of solitude. When we were younger, being alone could feel boring, even lonely. We crave company, noise, distraction. But as we age, something beautiful starts to happen. We begin to enjoy our own presence. The quiet moments become more meaningful. A cup of tea on the porch, a book at sunset, a nap without guilt. These become treasures. Not because we're giving up on the world, but because we're reconnecting with ourselves. Think of it this way. Every time you say no to a visit that doesn't serve you, you're saying yes to something more important: your peace of mind. And that is not selfish. That is self-respect. And let's not forget one more crucial factor: your health. Whether it's flu season, a common cold, or something more serious, older adults are more vulnerable to illness. Now, we don't need to live in fear, but it's okay to be cautious. It's okay to decline an invitation if someone in the household is unwell, or if you simply don't feel up to it. Your immune system, like your energy, has different needs now. Taking care of it means being wise about where you go, who you're around, and when you need to just stay home and rest. At the end of the day, not going visiting around isn't about becoming isolated or antisocial. It's about being intentional. It's about understanding that your time, your health, your peace, they're precious. And not every knock on the door deserves an answer. Now, if you ever felt guilty for pulling back a little, don't. That's just the world not understanding the quiet strength that comes with age. You don't owe anyone your time or your energy. You've earned the right to choose how you spend both. And if anyone ever makes you feel otherwise, just smile and remember, stillness is not weakness. Sometimes stillness is wisdom. Let's keep going, because there's more to this than just health and energy. You know, there's something incredibly freeing about realizing that you no longer have to say yes to every invitation. When we're younger, we often worry about disappointing people. We show up even when we're tired. We travel just to keep up appearances, and we stretch ourselves thin and try and be everywhere for everyone. But in our later years, there's this quiet shift. It's almost like life taps us on the shoulder and whispers, "You don't need to do that anymore." That brings us to something deeper, something emotional that many don't talk about, the emotional residue of visiting. Not every visit leaves you smiling. Some of them leave you carrying the weight of other people's problems. You go in with good intentions, thinking it would be a nice catch-up, and suddenly you're sitting in someone's kitchen listening to complaints about politics, their aches and pains, family drama you didn't ask to hear, or worse, subtle jabs and comparisons that leave you feeling smaller than when you arrived. And let's be honest, it's exhausting. You may have entered as a guest, but you walk away feeling like a therapist, a referee, or sometimes just invisible. This is why older adults often step back, not out of coldness, but out of self-preservation. Emotional energy is limited. When we were younger, we had a bit more bounce back, a bit more tolerance for emotional messiness. But now we value peace. We protect it like a precious stone. We realize that our mood, our calm, and our sleep aren't worth sacrificing just to be polite. And speaking of sleep, let's not forget how much our bodies change when it comes to rest. Visiting others, especially overnight or late in the day, can totally throw off your routine. You might sleep in a bed that's too soft, too hard, too cold. You eat meals at odd times, maybe richer foods than you're used to. And the conversation goes on longer than expected, leaving you lying awake with thoughts racing while the rest of the house sleeps. Back in your own home, your chair fits your body, your tea is just how you like it, and your bathroom is a few easy steps away. It's not about being spoiled. It's about recognizing that comfort matters more than it used to. One bad night can turn into a week of recovery. And frankly, you don't need to go through that just to make someone else feel good. There's also something to be said about being the one who's always expected to come to others. Have you noticed that? Sometimes when we get older, people assume we have more time, so we should be the ones doing the traveling. But just because you're retired doesn't mean you should be the one bending and driving and making all the effort. Your time is valuable. Your body is valuable. And relationships should be reciprocal, not one-sided. And let's not forget technology. We live in a time where connection is easier than ever. You can FaceTime your grandkids, send a voice message to an old friend, or even have a good long chat on the phone, all without putting on shoes or leaving the house. This isn't laziness, it's efficiency, it's smart, and it means you can connect without the toll that travel takes. Now, that doesn't mean you should isolate yourself or stop enjoying the company of others. Quite the opposite. What it does mean is that it's okay to be more selective, more thoughtful, and more aware of how visits impact you, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And there's another part of this conversation we have to touch on, the difference between visiting and being visited. There's something comforting about knowing that the door to your home is open to those who genuinely care, who bring warmth and kindness, and who respect your time. When you're the one who gets to decide when and how social interactions happen, it puts you in control. You can set the tone, the length, the pace. There's no shame in telling someone, "You're welcome to come over for an hour, but I like to rest in the afternoons." That's not being rude, it's being wise. Your home is your haven, and creating an environment that supports your rhythm and well-being is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself at this stage in life. We also can't ignore the fact that, with age, change becomes harder. The surroundings you're used to, the small rituals you do every day, the calmness of your routine, these things become anchors. Disrupting them too often, even with well-meaning social visits, can lead to confusion, anxiety, or even accidents. A new home layout, unfamiliar steps, strange pets, or even just different lighting can make walking around risky. It's not about fear. It's about respecting the reality of your own safety. Sometimes it's the little things. A rug you're not used to that makes you trip. A bathroom that's too far from the guest room. A meal that doesn't sit well. These aren't dramatic issues, but they accumulate. They wear you down, even if you don't notice it in the moment. So instead of seeing the phrase, "don't go visiting around," as some kind of harsh restriction, think of it as a gentle reminder. a wisdom passed down from generations who understood that in later life, less can be more. Less rushing, more resting. Less pleasing, more peace. Less going out of your way, and more letting others meet you where you are. Because the truth is, you've done enough running around in your life. You've shown up, carried responsibilities, handled challenges, and made people feel loved. Now, it's your turn to be intentional, to protect your energy, to say yes only when your heart and your body both agree. And anyone who truly cares about you will understand that. There's a moment in life, usually somewhere after 60, definitely after 70, when you stop needing the noise of the world to feel alive. You don't need constant plans or packed schedules or endless small talk to feel fulfilled. You begin to crave stillness, deeper connection, and yes, even silence. And it's in this chapter of life that the wisdom behind not going visiting around really starts to shine. Because here's something we don't talk about enough. You don't have to explain your boundaries. You don't owe anyone a long speech about why you're choosing to stay home, why you don't feel up to dropping by, or why you've pulled back from certain social routines. You're allowed to choose rest over running. You're allowed to protect your space. And you're allowed to make peace a priority. One of the most powerful things age gives us is the ability to see clearly, especially when it comes to relationships. Have you noticed how your tolerance for drama, competition, or superficial conversations has dropped? That's not being grumpy or antisocial. That's wisdom. That's your soul telling you it no longer wants to engage in anything that doesn't feel honest or nourishing. You see, when you were younger, you might have tolerated certain people simply because of obligation, family ties, long history, or social pressure. But now, in your later years, there's a beautiful truth waiting for you. You don't have to anymore. You can choose who enters your life, who you spend time with, who you give your energy to. And if someone drains you, even if they mean well, you can choose to love them from a distance. And maybe that's one of the most important reasons why elders in the past said, don't go visiting around. Not because they were tired of people, but because they were tired of pretending. They were tired of wearing masks, of smiling when they didn't feel like it, of nodding through conversations that went nowhere. They understood something many younger folks haven't figured out yet, that peace is more valuable than performance. So, what fills that space then, when you're not going around visiting everyone all the time? Here's where things get beautiful. It's the time for reconnection, not with the outside world, but with yourself. You finally get to do things not because you have to, but because you want to. Whether it's sitting quietly in the morning with your favorite tea, watching the birds, calling one trusted friend who truly sees you, writing a journal, or diving into an old hobby you put aside for years, this is your time. And when you do go out or invite someone in, it's not out of obligation, it's out of desire. That makes the interaction richer, more meaningful, more joyful. You're no longer showing up to tick a box. You're showing up because your heart feels full enough to give. There's also something grounding about having a rhythm that fits you, not society, not your grown kids, not your neighbors, just you. Maybe you like your mornings slow and quiet. Maybe you enjoy an early walk when the world is still asleep. Maybe you need a nap in the afternoon or silence in the evenings. That rhythm, it deserves respect. And every time you say no to something that disrupts it, you're saying yes to your well-being. And let's talk honestly for a moment, because sometimes we dance around this part. With age, we have fewer years ahead than we do behind. That's just a fact. So why on earth should we spend our remaining time doing things that leave us exhausted or unfulfilled? Why should we keep pouring into relationships that only take? Or keep driving across town for conversations that go nowhere? No, now is the time to choose what nourishes your soul. What brings ease instead of effort? What allows your spirit to breathe? And choosing solitude isn't the same as choosing loneliness. Let's be clear on that. In fact, some of the most deeply connected people I know are the ones who spend time alone on purpose. Because when you're content with yourself, you stop looking for approval from others. You stop needing to be seen to feel important. You already know who you are. And if you're watching this right now thinking, but I don't want to be forgotten, let me tell you something. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You matter deeply, even when you're quiet, even when you choose to stay home. Your presence has weight. Your absence has meaning. And your worth is not measured by how many social events you attend. It's measured by the wisdom, the love, and the calm you bring into every space you touch. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to stay home and rest, to choose a familiar chair, the quiet evening, the gentle pace. Because in that space, you're not fading away. You're reclaiming your power. You're honoring the life you've built and the body that's carried you this far. So, the next time someone says, you should come out more, or why don't you visit like you used to? Smile kindly, then do what feels right for you. Because if there's one thing life after 60 teaches us, it's that you don't owe anyone anything, but you owe yourself everything. And that kind of self-respect, that's something only age can teach. Let's take a moment to just breathe, shall we? You've lived long enough to know that not every invitation is golden, not every gathering is joyful, and not every door deserves to be knocked on. There's peace in that kind of knowing. And now, more than ever, you have the right to choose your peace first, without apology. One thing I've learned from speaking with so many older folks, people in their 70s, 80s, even 90s, is that wisdom starts showing up in ways we never expected. It's not just in what we do anymore, it's in what we choose not to do. We start realizing that constantly being on, constantly going out, constantly trying to keep up with others, that's a young person's game. Not because they're better equipped, but because they haven't yet learned the beauty of stillness. You've spent decades giving, your time, your energy, your heart, and now it's your turn to protect what's left of it. That's not selfish, that's sacred. And this whole idea of not going visiting around in old age, it's not a rule, it's a reminder that you've earned the right to rest, to stay home, to say no without guilt. And here's something else worth saying out loud. Not every visit is safe. As much as we'd love to think the world is kind and predictable, it isn't always. Whether it's catching an illness, dealing with traffic, managing unexpected stress, or just getting caught up in situations you didn't sign up for, there's a risk in every outing. It might be minor. It might be something you could bounce back from. But the question is, do you wanna? Sometimes, the best form of self-care isn't a fancy treatment or a wellness class. It's simply staying home. It's choosing quiet over chaos. It's choosing familiarity over friction. It's choosing your own rhythm over someone else's expectations. And let's talk about that rhythm for a second. Because in your home, you know the steps, the layout, the light that comes through the window at 4 p.m. You know exactly how warm the kitchen gets when your kettle boils. You know how your favorite chair fits your back just right. These little things, they matter more with age. They're not minor comforts. They're part of what keeps you feeling steady and strong. Compare that to showing up at someone else's house and feeling like you're navigating a maze. Where's the bathroom? Why is the floor so slippery? Why are they playing the TV so loud? Suddenly, a visit becomes a task, a chore, a strain. And that's when the saying really hits home. Don't go visiting around. Because it's not about cutting yourself off from the world. It's about knowing when to step into it and when to step back. Now, that said, let's not mistake solitude for silence. Just because you're not visiting as often doesn't mean you stop connecting. Quite the opposite. The connections you keep now, they're deeper, stronger. They don't rely on frequent visits. They rely on real presence. A good phone call, a thoughtful message, a short visit that's full of love instead of noise. That's where the richness lives. Some of the most powerful relationships don't need constant maintenance. They just need honesty. And honesty includes being able to say, I'm not coming today, but I'm thinking of you. That, my friend, is enough, more than enough. And if you're someone who struggled with the idea of stepping back, let me offer you this thought. You are not less valuable because you do less. In fact, your wisdom, your presence, your stories, they carry more weight now than they ever have. You've seen decades of change. You've overcome things younger people can't even imagine. You don't have to prove anything anymore. This is your time to be, not to do. And for those of you who still feel the urge to be everywhere, do everything, make everyone happy, I get it, old habits die hard. But here's the truth. The people who love you will understand. And the ones who don't, well, they probably never did. So let go of the guilt. Let go of the pressure. Let go of the old expectations that no longer fit the person you become. Instead, wrap yourself in comfort, in joy, in the simple pleasures of home, a quiet morning, a good book, a warm blanket, the sound of birds outside your window, the laughter of a phone call with someone who makes your heart light. That's the good stuff. That's what this season of life is all about. So when someone asks, why don't you come around like you used to? You can smile gently and say, because I found peace where I am, and trust me, there's no better answer than that. Now, if this conversation spoke to you, I want to invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Have you noticed a shift in your own life? Have you chosen rest over rushing? Let's talk about it. You might be surprised how many others are feeling the same way, but just needed someone to say it first. And if you found comfort in this message, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Because here, we talk about the things that matter, the things no one else says out loud. And we do it with honesty, warmth, and care. Here's to living with intention, with courage, and with calm. Here's to knowing your worth doesn't come from where you go, but from who you are. And here's to living your best, most peaceful life, one quiet choice at a time.